Hey everyone, you're listening to the Active Turnkey Podcast, a podcast designed for hands-off, passive real estate rental investors. In the Active Turnkey Podcast, you'll hear Tom Olson and Jared Stoutmeister discuss all things turnkey rentals with other turnkey providers, service providers, and rental investors. Our goal is to help you reach your financial freedom and whatever comes after that. Let's go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Active Turnkey Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Stoutmeister, and I do have with us the Tom Olson. And we are back. It's been a while since we've recorded a podcast.
The Active Turnkey Podcast is back.
The Active Turnkey Podcast is back.
It's been a couple of weeks since we did some episodes, and we're going to get back at this, bringing you as much good content and good information as we can. I will say right off the bat, like if you've gotten any value from any of these episodes, click the like, subscribe, tell your friends about the podcast, and give us a good 5-star review. That would be awesome as well. We don't mention that quite often enough maybe, but I just want to make sure that I mention that for you. So today's podcast, he's in a teller. He just really wants everybody to know about the fact that we just sold, I think, 2 active turnkeys maybe in the last couple of weeks here. And it's been a while since we've actually sold a property active turnkey, which is kind of what the whole podcast started to be. Active turnkey. I even wrote a book, Active Turnkey, the best way to buy rentals. You can get that on Amazon. But Active Turnkey's back, Jared.
Yeah, we've sold a couple different deals over the last few years, but they weren't true active turnkey deals in the sense of how we used to sell them. But for a couple reasons we can go over today, ATK is back, and the numbers are making sense again. And so for a long time, that's what we sold. That was our product. We sold the Active Turnkey model. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Active Turnkey, that is the BRRRR method. And so we sold it, and for a long time that was it. That was our model. Investors were loving it.
And it's interesting. I learned this whole model by accident, really. I learned this by rehabbing for investors. This whole thing came about 12, 13 years ago, and I was helping investors find houses to buy, and I was actually flipping them for them. So I wasn't managing them, for them long term. I actually at the same time had a property management company, but I didn't ever put the two together and didn't ever think, oh, maybe I should talk to my other investors about doing this as well. I thought I had fix and flip investors, and I thought I had long-term hold investors, and I was helping them find deals and that I knew worked for their numbers. And then I was getting the rehab done, and I was getting it sold for. And most of them were out of town and out of state, never saw the property. And I sold about 120 deals to 3 different investors like that, and did the rehabs for them. And then started wholesaling. And once I started wholesaling, I started realizing, hey, like there's a lot of value here, and I understand this whole other process. I've done a lot of rehabs already, and now, 12 years later, I'm almost at the 1,000 rehab mark for investors. So we are, including ourselves. Some of those rehabs are for ourselves, but basically, Active Turnkey is like what we've done is we've found out what works for our investors. And I thought to myself, hey, if an investor could be into a property less, would they be happy? And most of them, the answer is yes. It was interesting when we first even started Active Turnkey. We were able to show returns of either infinity or ridiculous.
Yeah.
And really, the return is like how much money you have in the deal. I'm not going to say that there's still no risk. Sure. There's still other ways to make it happen. And it really is. Active Turnkey really is for the people that have the cash.
Right.
It maybe you can do hard money on it. We actually also have a hard money lending company. So if it's something where you're like, maybe I want to do the Active Turnkey and I want to use hard money for a portion of it because maybe you don't have it all, we could definitely talk about that. And that's really not what today's podcast is about, but we definitely have those options and abilities to be able to help you with Active Turnkey. But our thought is if we can help you purchase a property, let's just use easy numbers. I like easy numbers, so I can do them right off the top of my head. These numbers are not exact, and honestly, most of the numbers are probably a little higher than what I'm going to say. But I like to use the $100,000 ARV mark, just for simplicity, so people understand the numbers. So let's just say I was able to sell a property to you for $60,000, and maybe it needs $30,000 worth of work, and that we believe the house is worth $100,000. And if you could be all in for $90,000 instead of $100,000, you could go and refinance that property and pull out a good portion. Maybe not all. You probably still have 10, 15% of the money in that property, but it wouldn't be the 20% that you would normally have in a property when you go and do regular turnkey, for instance. Yep. So that's really that's really the program in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Any more thing you want to add to that, Jared?
No. You definitely hit on it. Again, that was our product. That's what we sold. We didn't really sell the turnkey product for a long time. I mean, we sold a few, but by and large, it was the active turnkey model. And a couple things. First of all, one reason why it works. I had an investor in town here recently I was hosting, and I was telling him why it makes sense. And in many ways, if you buy from a wholesaler, and we've said before, the best way for you to do is this is the best deal, right? I mean, we think it's the best deal for you. If you have a chance to get all your money back in a perfect scenario, who doesn't want that? But I always tell people, hey, you could pick up your house. You can find a house somewhere. I mean, many of our investors do. You can do that. Here's the thing. First of all, that seller does not care what you do with the property. The wholesaler or the individual seller, they don't care at all what your exit strategy is. They're trying to get the most money they can get. And then in kind, the rehabber. So whoever you hire to do the rehab, they don't care what you paid for it. And so, they want to get their price for the rehab. So in essence, you have two parties that don't care about what the other one is doing, or necessarily maybe even what you're doing per se. And so in this case for us, certainly we are in this and we do make a profit. However, the deal is vetted. That's a huge advantage where, from our perspective, from the seller, we're providing you the asset and construction and the deal.
And the management on the back end.
Right. So, I mean, it's pretty... So, in that case, for us, in order for us to offer this deal, it has to make sense. And so, you are having... Of course, we are making a profit, naturally, but does the deal make sense? And so, you're getting that from a seller who is trying to get that price down for you. And so, I think it's a really big advantage and why ATK makes sense for a lot of investors who are... who want to be a little more active, but in a little bit more passive sense than if they were to actually buy the house themselves, go through the property, or work with their agent, or go and hire a contractor. I mean, that's a whole lot more active than when they're working with us.
Absolutely. So again, we're trying to make it like part active, part passive. This is a little bit more active, and you do need to know that you have a lot more responsibility than you might have when it comes to regular turnkey. A turnkey is done for you. It really is. You're going to buy the house. It's already rented. You don't have to make a lot of decisions up front. Decisions will come with tenants turnover or whatever the case is down the road, or maintenance. There will be some decisions that you have to make as a passive investor in turnkey rentals. But if it was your own rental, it would be even more. If you were managing it, it'd be even more. It's interesting that you brought that up. About just the fact that somebody's here on your side. They're trying to make it so it is a good deal for you, trying to make it so it's going to work out for you. And honestly, I think even on our end, on a provider's end that would provide an active turnkey type product, we want to make sure that we're providing a house that we're going to also want to manage.
That's a good point. That's good.
And a lot of people will sell you anything because they're just trying to make a buck, and they haven't really thought about that on the back end. I was actually just in Pensacola, our second market, and I was actually considering buying a house. I actually had it under contract, and I had a 3-day complete due diligence. Like, I could back out for any reason. I wanted to walk through the property, so I go to the property. And I walk through it, and as I'm walking through it, and as I'm pulling up to the neighborhood, I'm like, I just don't think this is for me. I'm like, this is not. I'm not liking this. It's not. I could tell almost right off the top of the bat, this is not for me. Price numbers probably still worked. But at the end of the day, I was like, I don't think so. So what I did is I sent this to my property manager, and I said, hey, what do you think about this house, this area? So on and so forth. And he literally said, he assumed I was buying it. You know, because I'm like, I have this house under contract, and I'm moving. I'm just looking for your ideas on this. How much would this rent for, and whatnot? And he literally said right off the bat, "That's an area I won't manage in.
Wow.
But I have a property manager I can refer to you that will manage in that." And I'm like, what? Like, this guy's an ex. I mean, the guy who manages my properties in Pensacola used to be a fireman. Like, he's not like he's not like just a, you know, he's not some person that's just afraid to go into just any neighborhood. And he's like, yeah, the last time I was in that neighborhood, I got a gun pulled on me. And I was like, well, that's great information to know. You know, like, if you go in this all alone, I think there's a ton of value to having somebody else that's kind of, I will not say your partner, but they are really kind of, in a sense, trying to help you, that we are, you know, kind of helping try to make sure that this works for you, but also we know we have to manage it on the back end, and we want to make sure it's going to work for us as well. But so it's interesting that you brought that up. I think the other piece of this whole thing, though, is yes, absolutely, you can go out and you can find your own deal. You can go out and you can find your own contractor. You can go out and you can deal with all those headaches. You can manage the acquisition. You can find a title company. You maybe find a realtor, maybe work with a wholesaler, negotiate all that stuff. You can do all of that stuff that you want. And then before you close, you can maybe go get a scope of work or get like a contractor or 2 or 3 to go look at the property, and you can go over it with them, and you can do all that work. Absolutely. And to some people, that's a good option for you because you got the time. Maybe you don't have the money, maybe you have the time. And maybe you have some skill and some understanding. This product, really, the Active Turnkey product, is not for you. I go to a great event called the Mr. Landlord event once a year. That he has a great retreat down in some tropical place. And for most of those people, this is not who we're talking to. We are not talking to people that want to manage their own properties, that want to learn how to manage their own properties better, that want to do all this stuff better. No. We try to do that for our clients. I'm looking for, the busy professional, the person that has a full-time job, that's making good money, that wants to invest on the side, or whatever the case is. That's who this product is really good for, where we're taking on all of that management. We're taking on, to me, it's more about the time than anything else. Like, I mean, I would love to find another person like me in another market, at some point, and just have me be the buyer, because I understand how much value they're bringing to me. Being the person that's provided the value to so many of our customers. And some of our customers now are have done amazing the last time we were running a lot of this Active Turnkey. So I mean, I tried to use the numbers at the beginning of this to kind of give you maybe what our minimums are. But really, we're trying to even do better for you. We're trying to help it so you can maybe be into this 80-85%. Of after repaired value. Not 90. 90 is kind of our minimum, and there's some deals where it's still going to make sense. And I know turnkey providers that sell they don't really call it Active Turnkey to the most part, but they sell properties similar to this, and they sell them right at 100% of after repaired value with purchase plus repairs. So basically, we're trying to. I think the biggest thing to understand is that Active Turnkey is about trying to work with a provider to help you provide the fact that you could be all into a property, 80, 85, maybe 90% of after repaired value, and then you can go and refinance that property. Now, there are a couple things I want to go over. First of all, the first thing you want to do is you don't really want to refinance the property within the first 6 months. There's the 6-month mark is a little tricky with banks. For some reason, they don't understand how you bought this property for X amount of dollars and then want to refinance it. They're trying to figure this out in their head. And there's another thing about the 6-month rule where they might require you to pay for 2 appraisals, before that time. So we just recommend to our customers, you wait 6 months at least. Now you might have a tenant in there in month 3. Month 2 possibly if it's a really small rehab. Most of our rehabs now, I would say start to finish are taking 2, maybe even 3 months, because of permitting and because of material shortages, and contractor shortages and labor shortages. But normally you're going to have probably a tenant in there by month 3, 4, and you might have a tenant in there, but you want to wait till month 6 if you can to really get this thing refinanced. I do want to mention, just because I'm not the guy that's just going to tell you all the rosiness and everything that is going to be great about your property, because I'll be honest with you, most of them turn out really well. They really do. Most of the properties that we've done, and I think we sold probably close to 200 of these, like this Active Turnkey. And what I will say is that there's 2 big risks that you do have to understand that you're taking on as an Active Turnkey buyer that you don't take on with Turnkey. And I think there's a third thing that you should understand, because some people didn't like Active Turnkey. We actually had some people tell us, oh, Turnkey's better because I'm cash flowing from day one. So that's something you want to consider. Absolutely. But if you're like me and you don't want to have a lot of your own money into a project, maybe some of these risks are worth it to you. I like infinity returns. I'm not sure about you, Jared, but
okay.
I like it when I don't have to have my money in this deal, and I can have my money in something else if I want to. Or I could use my capital to go and buy another property, and just basically you could use the way you look at it, you could use the same $100,000, $200,000 to buy 10 properties, because you can basically just recycle your money over and over and over again. But there are 2 big risks that I want to make sure that I always emphasize. First of all, you are taking on the house as is. When you buy an Active Turnkey property, when you buy from a wholesaler, when you buy from the MLS, and you're doing it it's just like any other deal. You are taking on the risks. Now, we do provide an upfront scope of work that our construction company can do for you with prices. Like we tell you upfront before anything happens, this is what this is going to cost. But you know as well as I do, Jared, like sometimes you open up walls, sometimes cities come out and they ask for things that you're still scratching your head 3 months later asking why in the world they asked for that. So it is possible that there will be extra repairs and there will be some extras that do come up. What we normally try to do is put at least a $2,000 buffer that is for incidentals. And for some reason, if we do not use those incidentals, we do refund those back. But that is something that we learned after, doing, about 50 of these, that, hey, maybe we should add a little bit of this in there, because inevitably there's always something that comes up. But I will be honest with you, there have been instances, and there could be instances, and I would say it happens about 1 out of every 100 deals where there's a big repair. And that's really on you. There could be a sewer line. There could be some kind of major something else that gets discovered in the middle of a project. And when you do as many projects as we've done, you kind of just it hurts. Like I don't want to see it happen. I don't want to see it happen to me. I don't want to see it happen to you. But I will say it does happen from time to time, and it is something that you do want to make sure that you are prepared for. And it's possible, you might need to come back out of pocket another $10,000 when it's all said and done. And maybe you are into this property, a little bit more. Maybe it's closer to 100% by the time you're all done. And we've had investors through the years. I can remember probably 3 out of the 200 that probably were into the Active Turnkey at value. I still think it's not a bad thing, because I've seen even turnkey investors at times where, like something big came up after they bought it, and we had owned the house for 6 months and we had no idea that there was this type of an issue. And then they're in the property maybe over value. And that can happen to anybody. It can happen to you on your own personal house. It can happen to really anybody. So I just love to get the risks out there and be able to tell everybody, hey, like there are other risks. And the second risk is that when you go to refinance a property, and I don't care what price point you're in, it's amazing. Like I don't care if you're in the $100,000 price point, $200,000 price point, $500,000 price point, $1 million price point. When you go to and I didn't really even understand this until one of my investors was trying to refinance his $750,000 property, and the bank would only appraise his house for $550,000. When he's on a golf course, he's got like a beautiful 4,500 square foot house up in Michigan, and he was trying to refinance his property, and the bank would only appraise it for $550,000, and he knew the house down the street just sold for like over $700,000, and according to him, the house down the street wasn't as nice as his, but how that goes. Everybody always thinks their house is a little nicer.
Of course.
But like this happens in every price point. It is possible. Now we've had pretty good luck, honestly, lately, especially lately, with refinancing some of our own properties. And Jared's done several where he was surprised. Honestly, he got a higher appraisal than what he thought he was going to get. Sometimes $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and at that point, you may be able to pull out way more money. And we've had investors that have had $20,000, $30,000. They've gotten $20,000, $30,000 more on the refinance back.
Yep.
Than what they even put into the property. Yep. So I feel like it's kind of like giving yourself a chance to be into this thing for no dollars at all. But really, even if you're only into it, let's just say 5, 10, 15 grand, now instead of being into a property 25 grand, maybe you're only into it for 10 or 15 when it's all said and done. And to me, the ROI goes way, way up. Your return on that $10,000, $15,000 goes way, way, way up. And then, we've been talking a little bit lately about the 3 to 7 year rental, where you've owned a property for 3 to 7 years, and then you think to yourself, this thing's gone up in value quite a bit. Your return when you do that, can be, hundreds and maybe thousands of percent if you're only into a property $5,000, and maybe you walk away with a $100,000 check when you go to close. I mean, honestly, like, this is real. This can really happen.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm not gonna say it happens every time, but every time. So far, I would say, values have gone up.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's exciting to us right now, because now that more inventory is coming on the market,
right.
Now that interest rates are a little bit higher, and a lot of the people that follow the fear mentality have kind of softened. I do believe that things are starting to get back to normal right now. We're starting to see a lot more showings on retail houses. We're starting to see things happen, and maybe this opportunity isn't around for very long. I don't really know, but I know right now we do have some properties coming up that could be really good potential active turnkeys.
Yeah.
So just to review what active turnkey is. Maybe I'll let you do this, because Jerry's going to be the one that would actually, let people know it from his perspective. So,
and
explain
Tom,
the process.
Well, and Tom didn't mention it. So 2 things before I get in the process I want to bring up is, first of all, the reason why we couldn't provide this product is because there were so many buyers driving up the purchase price. I mean, the material costs have gone up, construction costs have gone up, but it was really the purchase price that was really making it very difficult to provide this deal consistently. And so now with the market being what is, we see stuff that's sitting longer. We're seeing reductions. And so it's really providing us an opportunity to have a level playing field and actually even get deals cheaper. That's why now it's becoming an option and a viable option for you. We have had investors who at times have viewed Active Turnkey as if it was an automatic, like a turnkey. Like, hey, Tom mentioned it. It's not riskless. And I mean, I've had turnkey investors who thought turnkey was riskless, and it's just not true. I mean, sometimes tenants don't pay. Sometimes you have to evict. It's not perfect. So if you come into the Bird deal, you come into active turnkey expecting 80 to 85% no matter what, that's not real. That's not reality. And so you have to come with the mindset that, hey, things could and probably will happen on a grand scale.
Right, and we deal with this on a daily basis. So to us, sometimes it's kind of like, you get that feeling of, I can't believe that happened. But it is part of the part of the course. And the thing is if it was easy, everybody would do it. If it was just, it really is not a super easy process to make happen. And anybody who's making it sound easy, or anybody who's making it sound out to be that there is no risk, is really just trying to sell you something, in my opinion. And they probably are just like an oil snake salesman or whatever. I just don't think it. I don't trust them.
Exactly.
If somebody doesn't tell me like what my risks are and what I'm getting into, I just have a hard time trusting them, because I've never really seen that from anything I've ever purchased.
If it's in your sales pitch,
clothing to cars to houses, like, it doesn't matter. There is a risk, especially when you're investing. So understand it still is an investment.
Yeah. Yep.
And understand, like, it's meant to take time. Everything isn't and it's funny because sometimes people have a really bad experience for like the first year, and then all of a sudden, like, for the next 10 years, like, it's perfect. And then sometimes people have a perfect experience for 3 years, and then all of a sudden there's a problem, and there's things happen.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's certain tenants, sometimes it's certain times of the year, sometimes it's certain times of history. We just had COVID, but I will say that when everybody else is fearful, I believe we ought to not be that way. I will definitely stand up and say, when everybody else is fearful, I want to start thinking about, like, I was actually more fearful 6 months ago than I am today, because it was like such exuberance. January of 2022, there was such like everything is going to be, and I'm like, this isn't right. Something's not right here. I don't agree with him. I'm always looking for the opposite end of the spectrum. Now everybody's in fear mode. I'm just going to throw this out here because I'm not sure about this, but it's possible we might be at the worst time that we will have throughout this recession. We're already in recession, and if you don't believe that, I don't care what different government agencies want to try to change the definition of recession. We're already in recession. It's already there. There's these 3 billionaires that have like these different YouTube and different videos that they produce, and they talk almost every day. They're on there, they're talking, and they brought this up, and I was like, I think one of these guys brought this up, and he's like, it's possible the worst may already be behind us. Like, we just don't know. So the market has already baked in future rate increases for mortgage rates, and I don't really believe we'll see mortgage rates go much higher than they are right now. I actually think they will kind of fall down and come back down 2023, 2024. So buying now might be a great opportunity, great time to buy, with maybe refinancing in a year from now or refinancing later when rates are possibly a little bit lower. And I'm not going to say that they're going to be. Sure. I don't know. I don't have the crystal ball, but it's very possible. And if you look at what the Fed says, the Fed says what they're planning on doing is raising their rates to 3.5 to 4 and then tailing off, probably second quarter of 2023 and, lowering them slowly. They really like to see like a 2 to 3% Fed rate. That's where they want to get back to. But with that being said, that means interest rates should be back down in 4s, 5s, and we should be, investors should be really happy with those types of rates.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned a crystal ball. I'm actually bidding on a crystal ball on eBay right
now.
Man,
I need
get
one.
it. Yeah, I'm excited.
Everybody wants a crystal ball.
Yeah.
But Active Turnkey, we're excited about being able to provide it for our and honestly, it's funny because the Active Turnkey deals, when we send those out, they go faster than even the other deals that we have going on.
The deals we did sell, I didn't even get to the list. I just reached out because it's been so long. I was gauging interest, and everybody I spoke to was like, yeah, absolutely, I want to get in. You were talking about how things can go good and bad. Sometimes for us, the perspective's interesting. You hate for someone's first deal to be a deal where there's like 10 grand of extras, a significant extra pops. You hate that. But then conversely, you hate it when it goes so well, like unreasonably perfect. Because then that's their expectation of what BRRRR or the Active Turnkey deals look like. That's not normal. It's somewhere in between.
It happens too often too. It happens way too often.
Yeah.
Where somebody's first deal is either really perfect or really bad.
Yeah.
And it's not really reality. I mean, we still live in a world where it's really hard to get labor right now. Labor is very hard to find. And if you're a business owner, you probably know that already.
That's a good point.
It is hard to manage. It is like there's 3 main pieces that a provider like a turnkey provider will provide. Acquisition, which is a lot of work. Construction, which is a lot of work. And management, which is a lot of work. So
all things you don't want to do.
Yeah, it's all things that as a passive investor, most passive investors don't want to do. And we just always thought that, hey, you could go out and do BRRRR yourself. And to some people, that is a great, amazing way to be able to build wealth. I know a lot of people that have done that on their own. And if you're that person, more power to you. Go, great. Like, jump on our free-for-all calls. Come to our free-for-all event that we've got every year in September. And you can learn more about how you can, do better in your particular world, in your particular business. But if you're the type of person that's a passive investor that really does want somebody else to have all those headaches, then I just ask you to consider Olson Group Network, Olson Property Services, and everything that we have going on here.
Yeah. So if after all this you're like, I want to get back in, you've done Active Turnkey with us before, great. You guys know the drill. You have the experience. It might be like riding a bike for you, getting on the saddle again. If you're interested for the first time, like you want to do your first Active Turnkey deal, typically how it works out. Again, Tom already mentioned it. We've already acquired the house. we've already provided you with a projection of what the deal is going to look like. So we got the pro formas that will generate. Again, that's based off experience. So we can tell you pretty close what that thing is going to rent for. What we're using sold comps in the market, and this is again a good reason to buy now because there's really good comps in the market today. So if you're even paying a little bit less for a deal, it's really helping for appraisals. And you're getting the scope of work. And so when a deal comes to you, you have all the information. So typically you'll get the pro forma, you get the scope of work, you'll get general information and pictures of what the house looks like. And so at that point, you are vetting the deal. You're vetting that deal. And so basically at that point you say yay or nay. It now typically most investors have found it a better time, and you could speak to this, but they send all their funds at once. There's
two reasons for that. There is two reasons for that. And one of those has to go with the appraisal when you go back in the back end. Mm-hmm. Because if you now can show maybe that you purchased the property for much more, mm-hmm. Then like the ability to refinance goes through the roof. Like the ability to be able to mm-hmm. get a higher appraisal number. Like they don't like to see you bought the house for 60 and you're trying to say it's worth $100,000 4 months later. But if you bought it for say 80, mm-hmm. So that there's a couple different reasons why we do that. The other reasons is we were dealing with a lot of people that had a lot of trust with us, and that's really who I want to deal with when it comes to this. As far as getting into all that, mm-hmm. like most investors also just felt like it was a pain in the butt to have to keep paying us, writing a new check every month or every week, I should say, and mm-hmm. and making that happen. So that is our normal process, mm-hmm. and Jared can go into more depths with that, like mm-hmm. one-on-one with you. Mm-hmm. So up front, they buy the property, mm-hmm. right?
Cash price.
And then within a couple weeks, we try to start the rehab.
Correct.
And then after that, what we try to do is almost every week, I'm not going to promise every week, but almost every week we'll try to get you a group of pictures mm-hmm.
And
an update, like a couple
mm-hmm.
sentences, maybe
mm-hmm.
a paragraph or two that kind of just says, hey, this is what we're doing this week. This mm-hmm. is what's been going on. Maybe this is an issue that we came up with. Yep. Maybe, we're waiting for cabinets, we're waiting for windows, mm-hmm. But the roof is done and the rough electric's done, the rough plumbing's done, whatever the case is for that week. I will say, I do want to warn everybody, when it gets towards the end of a project, things seem to slow down, mm-hmm. but there's just a lot to wrap up a project. Yep. So like that very end where it's like the project is basically done, sometimes punch list takes 2 weeks, which it shouldn't. I know, trust me. I don't know why contractors have to take so long to get their punch list done. Sometimes that takes a little while, and then we want to make sure everything is done before we're paying them. So we're basically stewarding your money the whole way through, mm-hmm, anyways. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're just paying a contractor and the money could go away. Yeah. If for some reason we do pay a contractor and they run away, we don't come back to you and ask you. That's on us. Like we are stewarding that deal for you. Now, if an extra comes up that's not in the original scope, then we will come back and say, hey, I do. We hate that this happens, mm-hmm. But this is going to be an extra. And then at the end of the project, it's all done. Then we get you over to the property management company, and the property mm-hmm. management company will do their walkthrough. So they also do a walkthrough mm-hmm. from their perspective. And it seems like sometimes the things that get missed the most in rehabs are like things like towel bars or things like toilet paper holders, mm-hmm. or maybe like I think a lot of times for rentals we want to make sure that we put blinds on all the windows, and so normally it's just little stuff that they would come up with that maybe got left off the scope for some reason or something. And then from there, like they get it marketed, mm-hmm. they get it rented, you sign a property management agreement with the property management company, and you're off to the races. Yeah. And then Jared also, so another service that we provide is that we also work with you when it comes to getting this house appraised. And there's going to have to be an appraisal that goes into the property, and mm-hmm. we will work with you and make sure that we work with the bank and the appraisal company. And we also, when you do this, we also will help provide that appraiser with scope of work, with everything that's going on in this mm-hmm, property, mm-hmm. How much rent you're getting in this property, mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, like we still want this to be a great cash flow option mm-hmm, that mm-hmm. is going to appreciate in value over time. Yeah, no, yeah, and that's absolutely. So if you do a deal, make sure that I'm your contact at the very end, because we are there to
to assist you and push to get that value. So, and we do this all the time. We even coordinate with property management on your behalf to schedule those appraisals and inspections or whatever you're having. And so again,
we really are on your side for this. Think about it. Like there's a selfish motive here. So there's a selfish motive for us to help you. So if everything does work out for you, let's think about it. If you get the highest appraisal you could get and you get all your money back or you get most of your money back, what are you going to want to do next? Like that's how I view it. Yep. And if I was in your shoes, I'd be the same way. If I worked with a provider and I gave them, all the money, they got the rehab done, I got it appraised, the house got done, and now I got all my money back. Well, I want to go do another deal with them. Yeah. I know how it works on both sides of this thing. Yeah. It's not just selfish, and we do really want to help you. Part of our mission here is to help provide value to the investors, and that's who our client is. That's who our customer is. You are the avatar that we're trying to serve and make happy and have a good name with. We're trying to help you with your financial freedom plan, and we offer a bunch of other products. We have a lending fund. We have people that loan money to our personal, to Olsen Group. We've actually had people that have loaned on the same house that they bought. So we have lots of other opportunities and options for people to be able to invest with us. And we do want to make sure our investors are as happy as we can possibly make them. I know we can't make every single one of them happy, but I think we do a great job around here to making the majority of them happy the majority of the time. I don't think anybody's happy all the time, right? Yeah. But I think Active Turnkey is the best way to buy rentals if you're going to buy them for wealth building and for long-term cash flow, for financial freedom. When you look at a real pro forma, I don't think there's another real asset class that can outperform it in the long run. When you look at all of the numbers, not just some of the numbers, which some people like to look at. Absolutely. That's about it, I think.
Yeah, I think
we might touch on a little bit more of this in the next couple, podcasts when we're kind of going through different stuff and different deals that are popping up. Hopefully this brings you value. And if it does, like I said, tell your friends about us. We do have a free event coming up called the Real Estate Free For All event, September 30th through October 2nd. If you can find out more, if you want to find out more information about that, you can go to goodsuccess.com, and it's free. So it's not like I'm not trying to make money on it. We do only have 100 tickets that we can sell because it's right here in our office. We actually have an auditorium right outside here that seats about 100 according to the fire marshal. And I think we already have like 76 seats that have already been taken. So if you do hear this in the next couple of weeks, you do want to jump on that and get your free ticket and make sure that you're here for the Free For All event. That's it for today.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback on what Tom said, I think it's important for you to know that what you're looking for is to find somebody that can help you, build your portfolio, and we're looking for you. So we're looking for the same thing. And so if you're interested in that, if anything we discussed, if you're interested in doing Active Turnkey, or if you still like the turnkey model and you want to build your portfolio, you can reach us at buyolsengroup.com, or you can reach me directly at jared@buyolsengroup.com, and you can sign up. You can get on our list. You can see our deals as they become available, and also you get to have a conversation with me. We also give you the opportunity where you can come in and we host you, and so we want to provide you with the best service we can. And so if that's interesting to you, you can reach us those ways.
Man, you could get to have a conversation with Jared.
It's exciting, right?
Man, that's like big. That's value. That's boom. That's a big deal.
You got a point.
It is.
It's so true.
So I was going to mention that as well, so I'm glad you did. But even if you're just interested, you just say, hey, put me on that secret list, or put me at the top of the list for these Active Turnkeys. Reach out to Jared at Buy Olsen Group, and let him know that you're interested. We'd love to have feedback from you guys, and if there's anything else that we can do better for you, or anything you would like for us to do a future podcast on, let us know.
Awesome. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you for joining us. Awesome. Active Turnkey,
the best way to buy rentals.
See you guys.
God bless.
Olsen Group Network makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, Olson Group Network does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. Any third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of Olson Group Network. Olson Group Network assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast or the compliance with the applicable laws of such materials and or links referenced herein.